Hello, everyone. It's lovely to have the opportunity to talk to you very briefly about my tarot deck, the Transient Light Tarot. I hope you're having a really great time so far at the conference, and I'm really sorry I couldn't join you. But I'm going to take a moment to talk about some of the features of this deck, which were really important to me while I was creating them. And that is two main things, really. The genderless aspect of the tarot cards that I created, and also the sustainability and plastic-free side of what I created. So the Transient Light Tarot was a project that I started over lockdown. Of course, lockdown was a time where we were all forced into isolation, and we did a lot of self-reflection, and we're all kind of forced to think about our fragility and how easily things can change or be lost. And I was already processing a lot of big changes in my life, leaving religion, losing the idea of salvation in the traditional ways that I had been taught. And I'd also been through quite a bit of heartbreak. So there was all these things that were happening, and I was reflecting a lot on transience and how it is inevitable. Endings are inevitable. And I'll get my words out. I've been a little bit ill, so thank you for your patience. I love making the tarot accessible to people when I'm reading tarot for people, or when I am indeed creating cards. And one thing that always comes up is that people are afraid of the Tower card. People are afraid of the Death card. And it's only natural that the things that we fear most are often the endings. It's facing the transience of our lives, of the good things in our lives that we don't want to end. And creating this deck was a way for me to reframe that in a kinder way, but without shying away from the realities of life. So although the deck is very honest, it doesn't shy away from endings and that natural cycle of life. The feedback I've had so far has been so positive. People always referring to it as a very kind deck and very gentle. So when I was creating this deck, the theme that just started to build over time, and when I completed it, the best way I could describe the deck was that it was about embracing the beauty of transience, and that it's through embracing transience that we can find gratitude and healing, and we can find courage to live more authentically and fully. So, as I mentioned, there was two things about this deck that were really important to me. The first aspect was to make it genderless. And I didn't want to just flatten the depth of the tarot by taking out all the gendered language. The reason I wanted to remove the gendered language and the gendered imagery.
Can you say it again?
My Siri is talking to me. I'm going to do this one cut, so we'll just ignore her. Yeah, so gendered language and gendered imagery. And what I found with this is I struggled a little bit with this with the tarot, and I know that many other people, especially people who identify as LGBTQIA+, is, well, everybody really it affects, because gendered language is like a shortcut. Like, it's like a very quick shortcut way to saying, oh, well, that's a feminine card, or well, that's a masculine card. And although that's quite effective at times because it is a shortcut, it kind of lacks accessibility, but it also lacks the depth. You know, what is a feminine card? What do you mean by feminine card? You know, am I feminine? Am I masculine? Am I both? Like, and I thought it'd be really great to take those cards that are traditionally talked about in this way and find other ways, hopefully better ways, of describing them without these shortcuts of gendered language. And I had so much fun doing this. So, for example, the Emperor and the Empress, you know, the mother and father figure, it was so interesting to say, so what's the difference between the nurturing of a mother and the nurturing of a father, and those ideas without gendered language. So I ended up renaming the empress as the nurturer and the emperor as the defender. And I decided again to not use gendered imagery. So instead of using humans, I used precious stones. In this case, I used a pearl in the nurturer, that nurturing and layering of elements to create something beautiful over time. And then for the defender, I used a diamond, this idea, this super strong element that has been created under immense pressure. And I had great fun doing this. I did the same for the Hierophant, which I renamed the Proclaimer. And I did the same for the High Priestess, which I renamed the Revealer. And then the court cards, of course. The king became the crown. The queen became the keeper. The knight became the champion. And the page became the apprentice. The second part of the deck, which was very important to me, I launched this deck on Kickstarter in 2021, and it was such an honor to have such great support in doing so. And one of the things that I promised my backers was that I was going to make the deck as sustainable as I could. So it was going to be plastic free. I wasn't going to use any fancy varnishing. I wasn't going to use any fancy edging or anything or foil or anything that's going to not be biodegradable. And I also said that I would print it in the UK to reduce the carbon footprint of the deck. And that's what I did. So this deck is totally plastic free. The box has no special laminates. It has got you can't see it here, but it's got a very subtle wood grain texture. But it's got an earthy feel. The cards and the guidebook don't use plastic foiling or varnishes. The varnishes are all plastic free, so they're water based or oil based. I was so pleased when I passed this on to Hay House after my original batch that I printed with Kickstarter had sold out. I took it to Hay House and they honoured this to the best of their abilities, and they've kept this plastic free. So I'm very grateful to have worked with them and for them to replicate this deck as closely as possible to the original indie deck. With this deck, I also included a guidebook which I wrote, and I wrote a page for every card. And also for the major arcana, I have 2 pages for each major arcana card. For this, I invited my good friend Fausta Jolie, who is a incredible dynamic London poet and tarot reader in her own right. And I invited her along to write bespoke poetry for the major arcana, and also for the opening pages for each of the 4 realms. This was such an incredible collaboration, and she worked with me throughout the whole project, really, reflecting back to me while I was working on the artworks and bringing fresh perspectives to the major arcana. So yeah, I'm really, really grateful that you've taken a moment to hear this. The deck was released with Hay House in June of this year, so it is available everywhere. So you can grab a copy for yourself wherever you usually buy your tarot decks. I would really appreciate any feedback. Like, if you have any questions or feedback, you can always get in touch with me, either through my website, ariwisner.com, or Instagram, Ari_Wisner. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference and have a great time. And hopefully I'll see and speak to some of you at another opportunity. Take care and much warmth. Bye.